So, why does Donald Trump want to incorporate Greenland into the United States? That's the question that I'm going to try to answer today. We're going to look at this from a geopolitical perspective. We're going to talk about materials, we're going to talk about gas, and we're going to talk about military stuff just a little bit in order to get a clear picture of why Greenland is so important to the United States. Now, the first thing we have to acknowledge here is that it's up to the Greenlanders to decide whether they want to become a part of the United States or not. Now, why this is so, I would like to refer to another YouTuber who is called Anders Buck Nielsen. He made a video about this, and he basically lines it out perfectly. So if you really want to know why it's up to the Greenlanders and it's not necessarily up to the people from Denmark to decide this, please go check his video and do so after you've watched mine, obviously. Now, why Greenland, right? What makes Greenland so interesting? Greenland has a vast amount of natural resources. Think about Greenland as being the largest island on the planet, not being a continent because obviously Australia is bigger, I believe. So Greenland is a huge island. It has been covered in ice and snow for millennia, as long as mankind is around, actually. And this means that there has not been a lot of people that lived there. Currently, there's only like 57,000 people living on Greenland. So Greenland is still a vast, natural, untapped reservoir, right? And the volume of critical materials that is present on Greenland is really interesting for the United States. So, for instance, we can look at rare earth metals in this case, right? And these rare earth metals are very, very important for any modern industrial country because we need these rare earth metals to create a lot of special alloys. For instance, you can make permanent magnets using these rare earth elements. For that, you need neodymium. And one of the things that has happened in the past is that a company in the United States developed a method to create permanent magnets using neodymium. The Chinese basically bought the process. They moved the entire operation to China, and now the United States can't produce their own rare earth magnets anymore. All of those are now being produced by China, which gives them a geopolitical competitive edge, basically. So the first thing that you need to do at this moment, obviously the United States still has some rare earth elements. They do have some mines, but those mines aren't active anymore because there's a secondary problem with these rare earth elements, and that's that they are almost always found with either thorium or uranium, in which case you're handling radioactive material. And this is something that makes it difficult to do in the United States or in the EU, because once there's radioactive elements in there, you get all these extra rules and regulations that you need to adhere to, and that makes handling this stuff just either extremely hard to do or extremely costly to do. So that's why basically China won this geopolitical race for rare earth materials, because they don't have these stringent rules. So that's one of the things that is being worked on right now, because once either the US or the EU adopts legislation that says that you can handle this stuff, that you can extract the thorium or the uranium from it and then deliver it to some depot where they can basically store it for whatever subsequent use that they want, then you open up the world to rare earth mining again. Now, once you've done that, Greenland really is the place you want to be. So what you see over here, right? The world's top 10 rare earth projects. I mean, number 1 and number 3 are both in Greenland. We've got Breeze. They have 28.2 million tons of rare earth metals. And then here you have Kvanefjeld. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They have 10.2 million tons of rare earth metals. then you can see United States has the fifth largest project. But what really springs out here is that Canada has five of the top 10 rare earth metal projects in the world. Now, over here, this is a very interesting website. It's OD6 Metal Limited. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a better one. Over here, you can see a list of all the rare earth metals, lanthanum, cerium, praseodymium. I believe that these are the lighter ones, and over here, these are the heavier ones. So, gadolinium, for instance, you've got dysprosium, ytterbium. I mean, it's really interesting, and I really would like you to go to this website and basically read up what you can find about these rare earth metals, because it's really one of the geopolitical pillars at this moment that both the EU and the US are trying to grasp. They really want to get back into this rare earth metal game, which they basically ceded to China for all this time. And what you can see is that, even though Greenland is a very small country in terms of population, they basically have practically the largest natural resources treasure that exists in the world at this moment. So these 57,000 people who live in Greenland, they can become extremely rich if they play their cards right. Now, over here, the uranium potential in Greenland. This is a very interesting document. Right over here, you can see this is basically where you can see the uranium density in the ore. Right, how much uranium is there in this ore? Right. I mean, this document outlines just that the resources on Greenland, and we're talking about resources that you can delve today because there's no ice cover or anything. The resources are enormous. Over here again, uranium potential in Greenland, right? I mean, imagine the wealth of minerals that is still covered by ice and snow. It's just incredible. So this is super interesting. Let's see where they had some figures over here. So again, we have this Kvanefjeld. This is also the place where the most rare earth minerals can be unearthed in Greenland, right? And then we get over here. Let's see. Over here, you can see that Kvanefjeld has 437 million tons of uranium ore, which makes it like the fifth largest uranium deposit in the world. And that's just lying there on Greenland. So these are just, the fact that Russia has said that they're going to stop the export of low enriched uranium to the United States. The fact that the United States is right now opening their own uranium mines and they're building their own enrichment facilities and they're going to build their own conversion facilities tells you everything you need to know. Greenland is the treasure at this moment. They have so many resources that the United States needs that it is. I mean, it is a no-brainer that somebody like Trump, who is in this dictator business, I'm sorry for all the people who like Trump a lot, is saying that we're either going to buy Greenland or we're going to take it by force. We're going to annex it. Which brings us to the final question, geopolitics, right? I mean, just look at the Arctic Circle over here. We have this picture. Unfortunately, it's not really big. Let's make it bigger, right? So the only place where the United States borders Russia is in Alaska, right? And Alaska is a really thinly populated area of the United States. Now, the Arctic Ocean, if there, God forbid, let's not hope that it ever happens, but suppose that World War III happens, right? The Third World War would erupt. Then the Arctic Ocean is basically going to be the place where most, not all the fighting is going to get done. But if it turns out that it becomes an atomic war, which nobody of us wants, then most of those ICBMs are going to be launched across the Arctic Ocean. And some of these bombers that are going to drop nuclear ordnance, they are going to fly over the Arctic Ocean. And if you look at Greenland, right, Greenland takes a pretty prominent position over here. They are almost closest to the North Pole. Now, if we go back to this geopolitics question, so first we're going to look at the air bases that they have in northern Russia, right? So over here in Murmansk region, right? So this is not an air base, but what you can see over here, these are the submarines that carry the ICBMs. So this is a real threat. But obviously, this is maritime, and these go underneath the ice, and they go across the Atlantic, and they basically are weapons that can get close to the United States. But there's also some air bases over here with loads and loads and loads of heavy aircraft that can carry a large ordnance. Now, these over here, these are not attack aircraft, as you can see. These are transportation aircraft, but there is a base over here that has a lot of these Tupolevs that can go quite far. Let me see if I can find them because I saw one earlier today. Is it this one? Yes, these. So these are strategic bombers that you can see over here, and these are the ones that would fly straight up. Basically, they would fly from here and they go over the North Pole and they would come down over here, over Canada, or over Greenland. And that's why you want to have a military presence in Greenland, which the United States has. So here we have the Putifik Air Base, right? Now the question is if they still have interceptors parked here. I don't know, based here. I don't believe that they have, but they do have an early warning system. There is a radar, a radar early warning system that has been built over here. As you can see, I believe that these contraptions are part of this early warning system. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there's a radar system over here somewhere that is specifically designed to either look for ICBMs flying or look for these strategic bombers coming over the horizon. So this is one of the reasons why you want to be here from not a geopolitical, from a strategic perspective, because from here you can basically get into the Arctic with your either your interceptors or who knows with their own strategic bombers. But there's also another element to this, and this has to do with all the gas, right? So over here we have a map that I made where you can see the top 20 natural gas producing countries in the world, right? So you have the United States and Canada, and you have Russia. Over here you have China, you have Australia. I believe that this is Algeria. Then we got Saudi Arabia, Iran. I mean, there's a lot of countries that produce natural gas, but there's only three really big producers of gas, or let's make it two, and that's Russia. So here you can see where Russia used to sell its natural gas. It used to sell its natural gas to Japan, to China, to Turkey, to Egypt, and to practically all European countries. And then over here, you have a map where you can see that the United States is currently selling its natural gas to most of them are the same countries, right? So if you look at this country, Russia, if you look at this map, you can see Russia. And if you can look at this map, you can see where the United States is selling all its natural gas. Again, Russia and the United States. And what you see is that there's a lot of overlap there, right? I mean, the United States, obviously, they sell gas to a lot of more countries. I believe it's like 45 countries in total, maybe even 46. But what you can see over here is that basically where Russia left, the United States took over. And that's where we get this picture over here. So over here we have a rough estimate for where Russia's gas lines used to run, right? There were two that ran through the Baltic Sea. Those were approximately 1,200 kilometers each. Then there were two that came straight. Then there was one that came straight through Belarus and Poland. That one also roughly 1,500 kilometers long. Then there were two pipelines that went straight through Ukraine, another 1,000 kilometers each. And then we have Turk Stream, which goes through the Black Sea, and again 830 kilometers long. And obviously there's more gas pipelines over here, but these are like I believe that these were like the five most important pipelines, or six most important pipelines that Russia used in order to offload their natural gas into Europe. So what did we do when the war started in Ukraine? We started building liquid natural gas terminals in Europe. There are some liquid natural gas terminals in Germany, in the Netherlands, in the UK, in France, and the United States has a couple of them over here in Texas. But I also believe that there's one or two in Louisiana, and perhaps one or two over here in the Carolinas, or either in Georgia. I don't exactly know where they are. So what you get is this bottleneck, because you need a lot of ships in order to to bring this natural gas, this liquefied natural gas, across the Atlantic into France, into Great Britain, into the Netherlands, and into Germany, in order to make sure that all of these people can heat their homes, cook their meals, and heat their water, and obviously also use gas for their industrial processes, because we use a lot of gas in industry, for instance, to produce ammonia. So one of these things that I was interested in was how far, suppose that we would take a natural gas pipeline, and we run it straight across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, obviously, I'm still starting in Canada over here, but let's suppose that we start in Boston, right? That would be roughly 4,000 kilometers of natural gas pipeline uh, that you would have to build in order to get your gas from somewhere in the neighborhood of Boston, and basically bring it to Scotland, from where you would then distribute it down into the United Kingdom, to France, to Belgium, and the Netherlands, right? Now, suppose that the United States says we want to sell our gas to Europe, but we want to use a pipeline. I mean, they would first have to either go through the sea and go to Greenland, because that's why Greenland is so important, because you don't want to get into these deep waters too much, right? Because I guess I mean, there's some benefits to making sure that you don't go too deep with your pipeline. So you want to, maybe this crossing is already too deep. Maybe you have to go further north over here, you know. But in any case, over here you have a pipeline that's 1,500 kilometers. Then this pipeline over here is 1,000 kilometers. This pipeline over here going from Greenland to Iceland, 1,400 kilometers. And then this pipeline over here going from Iceland to Scotland, it's only 861 kilometers. So if you look at how far this is, they did two pipelines of 1,200 kilometers in shallow water. This is a relatively shallow sea. So that's 2,400 kilometers that they did with subsea gas pipelines. Then you can see, I mean, this is not undoable. It's not like we can't do it. We can actually run a pipeline from Iceland, from Greenland to Iceland. It's only 200 kilometers further. The only real problem here is, can you go deep? Can you go into this deep ocean over here, or do you need to stay in the shallow waters, right? But this is the third thing. So the reason why Trump, I believe, there's multiple reasons why Trump would like to incorporate Greenland into the United States. So the first one is the minerals. I believe that the minerals is the most important one. The second one is, I believe, the potential for building a pipeline from the United States to Europe. I believe that that's the second most important one, or maybe the third most important one, because obviously you also have the strategic aspect. And this begs the question, right? If if they say, okay, there's a national security issue that we can solve if we build more bases in Greenland, then the question is, who is the enemy exactly who is threatening your national security? And I mean, the answer is obvious, right? This is also the reason why there's not going to be a brokered peace between Ukraine and Russia within 24 hours. That's why they have tiptoed it back to, okay, we're going to make a peace between Ukraine and Russia within 100 days, right? Now, so it can be that Trump basically says, okay, yeah, the national security argument is convenient, so that's the one I'm going to use in order to make sure that, we can expand our military presence in Greenland. But it's far more likely that it is about the minerals. I think that the minerals are the most important aspect here. So with that, you've reached the end of this video. I really hope that you learned something new today. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Please make sure that you share this video with your friends. If you want to support the channel, please become a paying Patreon member or become a member of the channel. Now, thank you all for watching, and may the strong force be with you. Bye-bye.